So I'm here with L.A. Marzulli. Welcome back, L.A. You've been traveling all over the world. I'm very jealous. Tell us, you were in Portugal. You were with Joaquin Fernandes.
Not yet. We're going there soon, but I was actually in Peru with the Gen 6 tour with Steve Quayle, Tim Alvarino, and there's about 30 people on the tour. It was just fantastic. I took Peggy, my wife. She had never been here before, so we got there like 3 days early. We toured some of the Lima stuff, Pachacamac Pyramid in Lima, and of course Julio Teo Museum, which he was the guy that brought the elongated skulls, as you can see behind me here. These are models of them. Brought them to the detection of the world, but no DNA testing has been done on them, or very little DNA testing, and we're sort of the tip of the spear on that, and we're in the process of actually testing about 30 different samples, which we took out of the country legally. It took 4 years for us to do that. They are up at a lab. We've got letters of transit from the Minister of Culture. So it was done. Our team was Crackerjack team, Mondo Gonzalez, lead archaeologist. Chase Klodsky was our field forensic expert. She tagged and bagged everything with great expertise. Of course, I was there assisting Mondo. We were dressed, it looked like something out of CSI. We were completely garbed from head to foot, gloves, double rows of iron thing. And it was just unbelievable. And we got the samples, and it took 6 months to get the final permission, but we got them. The samples are back in the U.S. They have been sent off to different labs, and we're in the process of just waiting for the results. We're anxious to see what they are and see if the European haplogroups, which come from the mitochondrial DNA, holds up. Because if it holds up with the number 9 samples, then we're off to the races. I mean,
Yeah.
Something's not right here.
So Brian Forrester's tests were who did those? Who paid for
We
those?
did.
Oh, you
I
did.
did.
Okay. So
Brian
you're
and I are sort of a team. Brian is boots on the ground in Peru, but he was not present during the extraction. He was on a tour. So, my extraction team went in. That's Mondo Chase, and Richard Shaw was our videographer, and of course myself. And we went in and met with Ruben Soto, the head archaeologist at the Ica Museum in Ica. And it took 4 years to get us to this point.
wow, and it's expensive, right? It's really expensive.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
To deal with old, because everyone knows about Ancestry or whatever, the 23andMe tests cost $200, but to test ancient stuff is more complicated, right?
Yeah, very, very much more complicated. And the problem is that when you have, let's say, an artifact just like this, let's say, show and tell is always good, right?
Yeah.
So you'll notice a couple of things. And again, this is plaster, or it's an epoxy resin that Joe Taylor did for us. And this is a typical Paracas skull, which we believe is not cradle head boarded. This is the real deal.
Right.
It's got no sagittal suture, which runs from the cranial.
Yeah, right there, that's not human, period.
Yeah. Well, we don't think it is. Of course, the critics say that there is a disease called craniosynostosis, which closes.
Yeah, but will it do that to a whole, 300 skulls?
Exactly. So we're looking at something genetic. There's also the one genetic marker here, which is really very telling. Here is the foramen magnum.
Right
here. And the foramen magnum should be about here. Should be in the center of the skull where this pen is. Instead, it's pushed all the way back to the occipital plate. You can see where it is.
Right.
It's all the way back towards the rear, and that's a genetic anomaly, which we feel puts it into is it a different species of human? Is it some sort of a hybrid? We don't know. And we've never been able to get nuclear DNA to go back to answer your question. These skulls are over 2,000 years old, some of them are, and so the DNA is badly degraded. We can get mitochondrial DNA, but so far nuclear DNA, which really gives you what we're looking for, has been very elusive, and we've not been able to get it. So it's sort of frustrating, but that's why we're on the trail, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. That's very, very cool. So you haven't been to Portugal yet?
We're headed out there, fairly soon. It's a 2-week trip. We've got pretty much all the interviews lined up. We're very excited about this film that we're doing. And it will, of course, it's on Fatima, as you know, and you're in the film. Thank you so much, because you translated the book from Portuguese to English. And without that, readers like myself would have been, wondering what was going on. But I think, and you pointed out the story to me without, getting long-winded here. But the bottom line is there are two Fatimas. There's the Fatima of 1919, where the priest, Father Frieri, goes missing right after he conducts the interviews and is never seen or heard of again, according to some of the sources, because I tried to run down the story. And then the later edition, which happens in the early 1940s, I think it's 1943, where Lucia sits down and gives this completely different rendition of what the events of Fatima. And of course, the other two witnesses died in the influenza outbreak, so all we've got is Lucia's word. Like you said in your interview, she's been whisked off to a convent for 17 years. Yeah. It's been a gag order, a vow of silence. So now it's the 40s, and they roll her out again, and it's a completely different Fatima than what 1919. So the whole purpose of the film is what is the truth. And by the way, since then, I've been emailing the Vatican archives, and I had a cardinal email me back.
Wow.
With some vague deal saying like, well, your question is too vague. What do you mean my question is too vague? Where are, and I emailed them again, where are the original documents from a 1909 interview with Father Frieri? I can't say it any clearer than that. So it'd be very interesting to see where all this goes. I'm trying to be fair. The title of the film is Fatima, Mary of the Bible, or A Harbinger of Deception. So that'll be film number 2 in the Watchmen Chronicles series.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So now let's talk about your film, which I've had available on my newsletter for about a month or so, and I'm going to take it down soon, people. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about it, so people know what it is?
I went up to Vancouver because there was a gentleman up there that I had basically interviewed on Skype, and he was really traumatized. And all this is in the film. Wesley Sangiorgi does our CGI, computer-generated imagery. Mm-hmm. And so he brings these stories, not only Al's story, the guy that I Skyped from Vancouver, but everybody else. While they're talking, all of a sudden it cuts to CGI, and Wesley is showing you on, through the miracle of CGI, what's really going on. So the stories aren't just talking heads, we bring them to life. But when I got a hold of this guy, he was absolutely freaked out, because he had an encounter with a hybrid being. And what I mean by that is this woman shapeshifted right in front of his face. Her eyes went from human to reptilian. And, he pushed her away. She tried to kiss him. He pushed her away, and he goes, and she lets out this evil laugh. And he goes, "What was that?"
That's so creepy.
I mean, it's when you listen to his story, it's bizarre. Al, when I went up to interview him, I had no idea that Al's testimony, his story, would become the centerpiece of the film, because it is. There's a lot of great people that weigh in all through the film, a lot of different stories. That's why it's called In Their Own Words, UFOs Are Real. Everybody who comes on the record has seen something, from orbs to lights in the sky to ships. I mean, some of the testimonies are just riveting. Like one guy, Randy Clark, is looking up, and there's this huge craft, right in the neighborhood, 50 feet over the street. And he freaks out, no noise, and he runs and gets his friend, and his friend looks at this thing, and he's ready to run. No, stay here. And they watch this thing kind of wobble like this and head, towards the end of town, and all of a sudden it just shoots off. So, there's a lot of that stuff in the film. So Al Matthews is in some ways sort of the centerpiece of the film. What I mean by that, I went up there and interviewed him, and I had no idea the depth of his contact. I mean, he first had contact with these entities when he's a kid, probably like 10, 11 years old, on a skating rink in Toronto, the other side of Canada. He winds up in Vancouver. He's fleeing the experience, trying to get out. So he's 10 years old, he's on a skating rink. He looks up, there's 3 classic silver discs, and that just blows him away. And part of him goes, he wanted to know what it was. He got sucked in. And he was, from that moment on, he was contacted, he was abducted, and this stuff was not basically leaving him alone. I mean, it was ongoing abductions, too many to count at this point. And he's driving home from work, and this is the event that makes him flee the east coast of Canada and move all the way out to Vancouver. He's just trying to get out And we all know you can't do that. You know, they know exactly where you go, and they can track you, and it's over. So he's driving home. It's a nice night, beautiful night, and he misses his exit. He goes by his exit, and he knows he's about to be taken. He knows he's in the process of being switched off, which takes 4, 5, 6 seconds. He knows it. No discernment, goes by his exit. He's about to be switched off. The next thing is he wakes up in this brilliant beam of light, which is lowering him and the car down from the craft. And the car goes like this, like a leap. It's going down. It hits the road. The engine starts by itself, and the steering wheel, the car drives itself without Al doing anything until he sort of comes up and grabs the wheel. Now, you say, well, that's impossible. Shirley MacLaine talked about the same thing 2 decades ago when she was in Peru with shamans going down this windy hill, whatever she was, and entities took over the wheel of the car. So, it's real spooky stuff. And Al was totally freaked out by this. He realized he had 4 hours of missing time. He was about 150 kilometers from where he should have been. So 4 hours of missing time, 150 kilometers or more from his exit. He's not a happy camper. He drives home. And I said, what did you do? He said he drove home, took a shower, got into bed, curled up in a fetus position, and cried himself to sleep wondering, why is this happening to me? And then he fled to the West Coast. And I won't tell you the whole story, but the bottom line is Al gets out of it. Al contacts me, and we have this long conversation through Skype, and later on, just a couple of weeks later, he realizes what these things are, and he gets out of the environment, shall we say. So all that's in the film, and when you watch him go and talk about it at the skating rink, and then he meets this woman in Vancouver, and she's very, very pretty, and one thing leads to another. They're in the elevator, Alexandra. He's a mover, and he's going to move all her stuff. She's just coming from Kuwait, but she's got these really dark glasses on, which she never takes off, and the glasses wrap all the way around, really tight to the face. So Al figures that this woman, maybe she's got an eye problem, something like that. So he dismisses it. So they're in the elevator, the freight elevator, going up to where her stuff is stored, and she leans over and she goes, Al, they're listening. And he goes, who's listening? He doesn't know this woman. Out of the blue, who's listening? And she says, Al, the Greys. They're listening. And then she goes, you and I were supposed to meet. I know that you've been taken by them many times, and so have I. And he's just sitting there in the elevator going like, are you kidding me, basically? And he has this dealing with this woman, not sure what's going on. He hands her his phone number. Mistake number 1. And 2 weeks later, she calls him and invites him up to her a friend's apartment, not far from where he lives. So Al goes, and he's with his buddy. We saw all this stuff come down, and do you want to go? And his buddy goes, not a chance. But Al goes anyway because he wants to find out how come this woman knows so much about what I've been through. And it seems like, the dark glass, the whole thing. Anyway, so he gets buzzed up. She's with her friend. They're drinking some wine in these huge goblets. It's a beautiful summer night, and they're seated out on the deck, and he notices this very large deer fly. Really, a deer fly is like a horse fly, only bigger. It's huge, and it's on the side of her glass. Okay, and Al goes, let me get a Kleenex, and I'll take it. I'll get it for you. She goes, no, that's okay. She takes her wine glass, and again, Leslie Sangiorgi, our CGI genius, brings this whole story to life. It's incredible. Takes her wine glass, brings it towards her mouth. Now, when she reached down with her finger, let me back up. She reached down with her finger, and the fly, she didn't crush the fly. The fly stuck to her index finger. So she reaches down, the fly sticks to her finger. She brings it up to her mouth, and when it's about 6 inches from her mouth, she does this. Now, you can't do that. We both know that. But she sucks it in. And Al's totally freaked out. And at this point, she takes off the glasses, and she gets on his lap. So I stopped it. I said, Al, you've got a girlfriend at this point. He goes, yes. Is this normal behavior from you? He goes, no. It's the first time anybody's ever challenged him as to what's really going on. Al, would you allow this? You know, this is like, you got a girlfriend, you don't know this woman, and now she's on your lap, and she's like opening your shirt and going, gee, you're well preserved, her words. And she leans forward to kiss him, and at this point, Al's freaked out. He pushes her away. And again, Wesley Sanchiori brings this all to life. And as he pushes her away, no glasses, the eyes, which were human, go reptilian. They go completely reptilian.
Vertical slits.
And he goes, what is that? And she lets out, according to Al, the most evil laugh you've ever heard. He gets up and he flees the scene, and that's when he contacts me.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's...
So all that's in the film, Alexandra. It's in the film. It's riveting. It's an hour and 37 minutes long. Lots of people, everybody who comes on the record has had an experience. And that's why it's important. For you, for the skeptic, for, you know, and I know we're going to take it down, I don't know when, maybe July 4th weekend or something, you know, because it's been up there for a while. So, folks, you know, support what Alexandra does, support what I do, get educated, because if you got a skeptic in your life, man, you show them this movie, and they don't walk away going, oh my gosh, because everybody who comes on the record, really credible people.
Yeah.
Everything from pilots to housewives to, you know, blue-collar people and everything else in between.
These people aren't profiting off of any of this. They're not attention seekers. They're just telling a story that has been told now for 70 whatever years, that, you know, with many of the same features, you know, and it's just time to get real about this.
Yeah, it is. I think this closure is soon. I hope not, but you know, it can't. The cat and mouse game can't continue forever. That's all I know.
Right. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, what would that look like? How would that be managed? And
it can happen a lot of different ways, and we know about that. But when it happens, that's the lever. That's the mega lever. Everything changes.
Yeah.
When they show up, everything changes.
Yeah, the energy paradigm, everything. Right.
Everything. It all changes. Life as we know it. And Dolan, you know, Richard Dolan refers to this. It'll be before disclosure.
AD. Yeah.
Yep, that's what it will be.
Right. Well, it's always great speaking with you, LA. You have such a adventurous, fun life. I look forward to speaking to you, catch up with you when you're finished with the DNA sequencing from the Paracas skulls, and when you're done, you know, shooting from Fatima. And we'll keep in touch.
We'll talk soon. Thanks so much, Alexandra.
Right on.